All right, everybody, welcome to a special edition of the Press Row Hangout. Got a lot of good stuff to talk about tonight in this brief edition. For those of you watching live, thank you. For those of you who are listening to the Press Row podcast, this is an addendum to the fall sports preview because this week was Gamescom, and some pretty interesting information came out of that. Gamescom has somehow become a better sports game conference than E3. I'm not sure how that happened, but it did. And also, a lot of people are very interested in the growing controversy around NHL 15 and what will and perhaps will not be in it. So we're going to get to that in a few minutes. But before we do that, first off, I want to say hello to my two good friends up first from Washington, and the curator and the main man behind PastaPadre.com, Mr. Brian Weedeye. Brian, welcome.
Thanks. Been a busy few days, busy week. Preparing for even more over the next few weeks and months, really. And at the same time, I'm going through housing projects, or that's probably the wrong way to say it, but a house project. Painting some rooms and stuff, which is it's all new territory for me. So.
And of course, that man in the middle of the video is the Chief Technology Officer of the Press Row Podcast, Mr. TJ Lowery. TJ, welcome back as always.
Rich, I'm so happy to be here. I feel like I've only talked to you guys every night the last 4 weeks. It's been pretty awesome.
All right, so again, I mentioned we're going to talk about NHL. But before we get that, Gamescom happened in Europe this week, and a ton of sports game information came out of it. Obviously, Europe is a hotbed for soccer, and so as you would expect, a lot of information came out about Pro Evolution and FIFA. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I wanted to revisit for a minute the demos. As everybody from the beginning of the week remembers, there was quite a controversy around the fact that it was announced that there was no demo for Madden 15 for the PS4 and the Xbox One, and a bunch of folks sort of linked that together with the with the start of EA Access. And of course, there was unfortunate timing between the announcement of no demo for Madden 15 and about 39 seconds later, they announced that EA Access was live. So a lot of people saw a direct correlation between that. Since Monday and Gamescom, however, NHL 15 will have a demo on the next-gen consoles that comes out, coincidentally, on August 26th, the same day that Madden hits, kind of perhaps an unfortunate day for that. And then FIFA will also have a demo. NHL didn't launch last year, but FIFA did not have a next-gen demo. Actually, it did, so I take that back. But anyway, FIFA will have a demo, and that comes out. It hasn't, I don't believe the date has officially been announced, but it'll probably be a week or two before it hits. So, knowing now that FIFA and NHL will have a demo, do you feel any differently about Madden not having a demo one way or the other? TJ Lowerman, your thoughts on that?
No, I'm still sticking with they had a short dev cycle. I believe in my heart that that's the real answer. I don't really want to believe that it's all about the money, but that's a huge possibility. But I think short dev cycle. Everybody else is coming out with demos. This game is the one that had the shortest time to launch, so I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Brian Weedeye?
Yeah, like you said, the timing was absurd. There was no way not to connect the two in some form or fashion. Now, like I said on our earlier hangout, just where we focused on the demo news, it wasn't 100% EA Access. It was, shorter dev cycle, whatever. Maybe they made the decision they could tuck away a demo this year because they had EA Access on the way. Who knows? But they weren't going to roll every single demo back and then just use EA Access for all these games, because then it would have been obvious. It would have been completely about EA Access, and it's going to be a gradual process as they move and move people towards the digital side of things, and they're dipping the toe in a sense. Maybe it's just an opportunity for them to gauge reaction and response, and if people didn't speak out about there not being a Madden demo, they would have said, well, it looks like people don't really care about demos, like our research said. So it's important for people to still speak out about it, regardless of whatever motivations there might have been right now, because they would take no reaction to it as a sign of, of people not caring, and it would have given them the opening to go further with it in the future if that was the case.
Well, if there's anything we know, people care about Madden. Now, they may care about it in a positive way, they may care about it in a negative way, but my goodness, people care about Madden. All you have to do is look at the comments on on Pasta Padre and Operation Sports whenever there are whenever there's any new information of note. So a couple other things, and we're not going to rehash the whole demos, do people use them anymore, do people not? That was all discussed at length earlier this week. So go check out that Hangout, the Press Row Hangout about No Madden 15 demo. But a couple other things that came out about Gamescom. Obviously, it was very heavy on soccer information. A lot of information came out about FIFA. No real surprises, I think, but there was definitely a lot of additional information spilled about how how you can manage your team in the seasons and in the in the manager mode, and there seems to be a lot of good feelings about some of the new ways that you can set your lineups and things like that. But what I found interesting was that Pro Evolution also had a very big showing at Gamescom. And the release date for Pro Evolution on the next-gen consoles is November 11th. So that is, a curious date. It is well past the release window for any of the other big sports games. There will be a demo for it as well, which comes out almost 2 months earlier on September 17th. Brian Wiedeauer, are you surprised by the release date, especially being so much later than the other games? What did you think when you saw that Pro Evo was coming out at that time?
Well, it's probably beneficial for them to get away from FIFA. That gives them almost a 2-month window. But that's a date that was that used to be where NCAA basketball would release. It's right around that time, and NCAA basketball was not a big seller. There were a lot of theories about why that was. A lot of people thought it's the last sports game to release. People have already bought several others. They don't have the money for it. Plus, there's so much other competition in the market. That late October, early November areas when you see so many AAA titles releasing, it's a tough date. But Pro Evolution is really, it's an overseas game. It's a game that's heavy in the markets like Japan, where I can't really offer expert analysis on a release date, how it affects things over there. But when I saw the date, I immediately thought they're just trying to get away from FIFA because it's just too much for people at that point.
TJ Lauerman, you are our Japanese baseball game expert, which also makes you our de facto Japanese soccer game expert. And
how do these things happen?
And Pro Evo, is huge in Japan. Do you think this release date is going to help them, hurt them, or do you think this is it is going to do what it's going to do regardless of the release window?
Yeah, I think it's going to do what it's going to do regardless of the release date. I feel like by now people are locked into either FIFA or Pro Evo. A couple years ago there was still the battle between the two, but I think now they have separated enough, and they have the Japanese leagues, so it's going to be fine. It's going to do what Pro Evo does every year.
It's got Online Master League, which didn't work last year for about 2 months on the Xbox 360. But assuming Online Master League actually works, I know that I am very interested in checking it out. I hope, like all of these games, I hope that it's going to be really. I just hope that it's going to be really good, and I hope that the new influence from the Western development team that is collaborating with the Japanese team is going to make it a little more. Palatable, or at least a little more understandable to folks like me. All right, last thing before we get to NHL, the Golf Club has announced its release date, sort of. It is coming out on August 19th on the Xbox One, and there is still, as of this evening, not a firm release date on the PlayStation 4. TJ Lauerman, are you surprised that there are different release dates for the two consoles for the Golf Club?
No, not really. I mean, I think they were just really waiting for the the QA and certification from the vendors, and they're just trying to push it out as fast as possible. If they really wanted, they could wait, but then they're probably going to get forced onto the Madden day. As long as they can get it out before that, I think they'll be better off. But now they're just waiting on Sony. I guess Microsoft fast-tracked them because Microsoft loves indies, right?
I think it's a huge win for them to get out at least a week before Madden, at least on the Xbox One. Brian Weedeye, do you think that will be advantageous in any way for a title like the Golf Club, which is the first, sports game releasing? If you don't count UFC, which some do, some don't, but it's really the first sports game releasing since MLB and or UFC. Is getting out there a week early on at least the Xbox One a big deal?
I think that makes a bit of a difference to get out ahead of Madden and everything else that comes right after that. But it's rough for people who own both consoles. So there's differences between the two. They admitted it. Higher resolution on the PS4, about the same frame rate, maybe slightly higher frame rate on the Xbox One. So it makes for a tough purchase decision if I want to jump on the Xbox One and get it there, or wait for the PS4. But it's a tough situation for that because, like we've talked about, it's a digital-only game. People can't really gift that to people over the coming months, which is how a lot of games benefit in the holidays. And there's so many games following it right up: Madden, NHL, FIFA, NBA, and then games like Destiny. It's in a tough spot, especially at the $35, which you and I, Rich, did not think was a bad price for this game, actually, for what they're offering and what they plan to do with it. But people are conditioned to these digital-only games being $15 or $20, and the reaction I saw was, they're crazy, that's way too high, I'm not just blindly paying $35 for it without a demo of sorts or whatever. So it's going to be interesting. Like we said, it's completely different from how things are generally handled in sports games as with their strategies. So it's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, just like I mentioned on this week's podcast, and I mentioned earlier on the Hangout, that it's clearly obvious to me that the way that I view a lot of these things is different from many other people, the majority. $35 seems to me not only like a perfectly fine price for a game that appears to have so much content and so much, fun, social interaction, the ability to have, tournaments with your friends and tours with your friends and all this user-generated content and stuff. And TJ Larriman, am I crazy? Or is $35 way too high? Is it the right price? What are your thoughts on that price?
No, I was actually really surprised when they came out at $35 because usually when you see like the off-brand game come out, usually it's $50, and then you're like, okay, I kind of understand because it's like unknown quantity, and it comes at $10 lower than everything else. So when it came in at $35, I was actually really excited for that because I was expecting it to be either $40 or $50, and like I understand there's not licenses, it's not going through another publisher, but I mean if they had to go through a publisher and it would have ended up being $60 and there would have been retail copies, I mean, I would not be happy with this game for $60, but at $35, I think it's a pretty good deal, especially since it doesn't look like it's going to be a year-over-year release, and there's going to be tons of content.
Nor is there any indication of any sort of microtransactions either. Now, obviously, I assume that there will be DLC that you will get for free. I assume there will be DLC that you will pay for. I mean, it's not going to be $35 on August 19th, and then you get to play a ton of free stuff for the next 10 years. But yeah, so I was surprised that there were so much negativity towards the price. But hey, you know what? Everybody has different ideas of what value for their dollar are, and as we always say around here, the best way to voice that opinion is to vote with your wallet.
Yeah, and I think one of the Tiger Woods course packs last year was $40 for like 16 courses. So
exactly.
This is cheaper than that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, granted, those courses are very specific.
License, and they had to go out there and do all the 3D capturing and
exactly. So there's a lot to that. It's not apples and oranges, or maybe it is apples and oranges. It's not apples to apples, regardless of yeah, exactly. Last thing before we get to NHL, EA Access, we still don't quite have an idea. We know that EA Access members will have access, no pun intended, to the full retail games of NHL 15 and Madden 15 and FIFA 15 and NBA Live 15 5 days before they hit stores. But what we still don't have clarification on, where we're hearing a lot of chatter about, is how much access will that be? Will it be a couple of hours? Will it be unlimited? Brian, when do you think that we're going to get the full story on that? And what are your overall what are your predictions?
Well, I'll tell you what, this bothers me because EA Access rolls out. They're asking for people's money, and our initial assessments are it looks like it's a pretty good value. Now, if what you care about most is playing the games early, they haven't told you exactly how that's going to work. Their terms are very clear that they can give you up to 5 days of early release time. And I think based on their Twitter feed, Madden will be getting the 5 days, so that's 1 week away now. So if Madden gets the 5 days, that's only a week away, but they will not, no matter what you do, no matter who you send emails to, they will not respond about how much time you will be able to play Madden, because those terms say a minimum of 2 hours over the 5 days. So if it was just the full 5 days you're able to play, I'm pretty sure they would have said, yeah, it's the full 5 days. But funny story today, Operation Sports tweets the EA Access account, says, can you give us a time, tell us how much time we're going to have to play Madden when it comes out. They don't respond, but they do respond to someone who responded to Operation Sports about something completely different. So it's frustrating, and I just look at it and I see 1 week until then, and they're just trying to get people's money before they drop some kind of bomb here about Madden, and it bothers me, it annoys me, because it's just not the right approach to have with consumers. So I say it's a pretty good value as a package. But if you're unsure about this, if the Madden Early Access matters to you, either just buy the 1 month subscription, pay the $5, or wait, because don't get suckered into the full year if this is an important aspect of that to you.
This gets into part of what we're going to talk about next, which is communication by the publishers and developers with the community. Maybe they don't even know yet, right? I mean, and I'm not even joking. Like, seriously, maybe they're still working out what it's going to be. I mean,
yeah, and why are they selling it to us though?
Well, let's face it, right? They're not just selling you the 5-day access. They're also selling you the ability to immediately play 4 or 5 games.
Oh, look, there's no doubt about that. I mean, as a whole, if you're taking that into account, it's absolutely worth it. But the way they're promoting the program is this is basically 1/3 of it, but they're not actually telling you the details on it.
Yeah, no, I'm not suggesting anything other than, like, seriously considering the fact that maybe they still don't exactly know, right? I mean, who knows how this is set up? Do they have the ability to limit it per title? Probably, because, again, as we've spoken about before, giving somebody unlimited access for 5 days to a game that is a story-driven game that you could, in theory, beat in 3 or 4 days, like Dragon Age Inquisition, for example, versus, there isn't really the concept of beating a Madden or beating a FIFA. It's a very different thing. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, TJ, ultimately, what do you think the access is going to be? Do you think it's going to be a time limit on these sports games? Do you think it's going to be the whole time? What do you think is going to happen here?
No, I think for the sports games, I think you're going to get the whole 5 days. But like you said, for story-based games, I assume they're going to limit it to maybe 2 hours, or do something like you can play 2 hours, but you can play it like over and over again, but not just get past that. Though you say it's the full game, I'm very curious to know if actually Ultimate Team's going to be in, because during the season ticket previews last year and the year before, Ultimate Team was sectioned off, saying that it'll be up when the retail copy's out. Usually they don't want to let people get that big of a head start, except for in FIFA. So I would assume when FIFA comes out, it will be in there, because they open up the auction house and stuff like about 2 weeks early anyway. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see I gotta believe they're going to give you the full 5 days for the sports games, but story-based games definitely not.
All right, so last question before we move on to NHL. Brian, what do you think it's going to be? Do you think it's going to be the full 5 days for these sports games, or do you think there will be a time limit?
I think there's going to be some kind of a limit. Otherwise, I believe they wouldn't let that linger the way and dodge the question so publicly. It's just, whether it's something like 12 hours, I don't know. But I don't, if I had to put money on it, I would say there's going to be some sort of restriction.
All right, well, we'll see. All right, NHL 15. This is what we know. We know that the games, the gameplay that TJ Lauerman and I have played were terrific. Game played great, looked great, sounded great. We played it at a New York event and had a great time.
Never thought to back out to the main screen, right?
Yeah, really. Darn it. We know that a demo hits on August 26th. We know that it releases on September 9th. We know that there are a bunch of leagues, not just the NHL, but some other leagues, some European leagues in it. We know that there is Hockey Ultimate Team. There is HUT mode in it. That's what we know. What we don't know, less than a month before its release, is whether there will be two of the most beloved modes in it, namely EA Sports Hockey League, or EASHL, and GM Connected. And while I had been one of many, thousands of fans of the series that all along has been assuming that GM Connected and EASHL would be included in it, and these assumptions are based upon EA being very clear that virtually all of the games transitioning from the 360 PS3 era to the Xbox One PS4 era would be feature complete, with a couple of exceptions, like FIFA didn't have tournaments with the launch game last year, but will have this year. I had made the assumption that those two modes were in it. I mean, EASHL, we know, is relatively has a relatively small number of players, but they are passionate and devoted. GM Connected, I don't know the metrics on it, but it certainly is very beloved. And TJ, you and I have been in multiple GM Connected leagues. So between that and the fact that NHL did not launch last year, and they've had more time to build their game than any of the other major sports games, we just thought it was a slam dunk, pardon the non-hockey pun, that EASHL and GM Connected would be in there. Brian Weedeye, there have been rumors and growing concern because of the lack of announcement of these modes so close to the release date that these modes are actually not going to be in there. What are you hearing? And not only from people that are just asking you questions, but what are you hearing from people that claim to know? And what do you think is actually happening here with EASHL and GM Connected?
Well, it's interesting because you say they haven't been announced, but typically modes that carry over from one year to the next aren't announced, or they're just assumed to continue unless unless the company says otherwise. So we go back a few days. It actually goes back a little further rumor-wise, but there's quite a bit of circumstantial evidence, I'd say, that's been piling up. It started with some unverified rumors on Reddit, which, on its own, you wouldn't take that seriously, but with everything else since, you start to look back at those. There were a few of those before all this really happened. So that was followed by more unverified accounts, but then there was the feature list for the 360 PS3 listing EA Sports Hockey League, for example, but the PS4, Xbox One does not list it. The pre-order bonus, interestingly enough, the past few years has included EA Sports Hockey League incentives. This year it doesn't. Posts were being deleted in the EA forum that were questioning whether EA Sports Hockey League would be in. There's retailer listing that shows online as 1 to 2 players instead of 12, which would be the max in a EA Sports Hockey League online team play game. And EA won't respond to any of this, which is really what digs things even further is that they won't respond, and there's no reason not to if the status quo is in place, because this isn't a new feature that they have some sort of marketing plan to roll out. It's a carryover feature. There's no reason not to say, yeah, it's still in the game if there's any question about it. And they are getting bombarded all over social media, Facebook and Twitter. It's just nonstop asking, what about EA Sports Hockey League? They won't respond to that, but they'll continue to post about other stuff and reply about other stuff. EA won't respond to any media requests for comment on this. Basically ignored, or boilerplate type statements that don't answer anything. It's just, also, I noticed yesterday at a Gamescom, they released a blog for FIFA that shows and describes every mode that's in the game, and they still won't talk about anything really to do with modes with NHL. And FIFA comes out after NHL, so what it looks like is they're either hiding some sort of unfavorable news, stalling, and they plan to bury it in other news, which is what it looks to me like is going to happen next week, or they don't even know the outcome of all this yet, and they're trying to cram it in at the last second. It has to go gold within, really any day now. So if they're trying to get it in and they're not sure, maybe that's why they're not saying anything, or they could have some sort of plan to patch it in later. Either way, I see this as a really dishonest approach to things, and it's unfair to consumers. Whatever they think they're gaining by letting rumors swirl and not confirming it, if they think they're saving pre-orders in some form or fashion, in the long term, it just hurts. The only thing I can compare it to is when 2K Sports took crew mode out of NBA 2K12. They wouldn't even speak the word crew, no matter in an interview or in social media. They wouldn't say the word crew before release. They wouldn't say it after release for a month. And they haven't heard the end of it from those fans. EA Sports Hockey League especially, but also GM Connected, those are much bigger parts of NHL than crew was to NBA. So this is a huge deal. And you see it in just the way people are worried about it, and the way they're scrambling to try to get answers to it. There's only 3.5 weeks until the game's out, so the answers have to be coming soon, and they have to be definitive. And it's a really unsettling situation. Not just in that they may be out. That's one thing, but in the way EA's handling it.
All right. About 90 directions that we could go here, so I'm going to try to approach this point by point. First of all, okay, I'm concerned, right? I mean, GM Connected is I am looking forward to our Press Row NHL League as much as, if not more than, any other thing that we've got cooking for this fall. So I want to make sure that I am absolutely clear about that. Having said that, I'm going to disagree with one of the things that you said, which is that it's being dishonest. EA is a very large corporation with a large public relations team, and NHL is one small part of their entire suite of products. FIFA is light years ahead of NHL in terms of sales and, frankly, importance to EA, much more important than NHL. They could have had a complete plan, and I'm sure there's no could have. They have a very specific plan for when they announce each one of the different parts of each one of the different games and what they're going to announce and when they're going to announce it. The guys that are making NHL could be dying to say, yes, GM Connected is in this game. Yes, EA Sports Hockey League is in this game, but they are not allowed to officially confirm the modes that are in the game until this date, which could be the date next week. And in fact, Brian, you pointed me to a forum post today where one of the community managers said we are announcing the modes next week, right? Mm-hmm. So it could simply be that these guys have to follow the corporate marketing rollout strategy for when they announce it. I'm not saying that's what's happening.
Yeah, I was going to say, Rich, if you send an email to EA for Madden 2 months ago and said, is Connected franchise in the game? They would have told you yes.
But yes, they would have. But haven't we been complaining for months how we're not hearing anything about Connected Franchise Mode? And then much later than they ever have, they release a huge blog with all of the details on all the new modifications. And in fact, next week I've got an interview with Josh Lumen for over an hour where we go into detail on all the stuff on the franchise mode. Plus, Madden already came out last year with GM Connected, with Connected Franchise Mode in it. All I'm saying is that I'm not going to say right now that they're necessarily being dishonest. They may have their hands tied because the chief marketing officer has signed off on this rollout plan for when they're going to announce things. I'm just saying that could be what's happening here, all right? Because if, I would feel very bad for the guy who accidentally announced or let something slip a week or two beforehand before he was supposed to. That dude loses his job. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but that could be the situation. But let's assume for a minute. Well, first of all, let's break them down one by one. EA Sports Hockey League and GM Connected are two very different things. EJ, you've played EA Sports Hockey League. EA Sports Hockey League is 6-on-6, up to 6-on-6 with a very deep and complex system around it. I'm sure that it presents a significant amount of development challenges to moving it from one core system to another core system. TJ, what would it mean to you if EA Sports Hockey League was not part of NHL 15?
Well, I don't really play too much of the Hockey Ultimate Team, so EASHL and GM Connected are pretty much the only stuff I play in this game. So if that's not there, that's half of the game. And what really worries me is, I think it was when they rolled out GM Connected, they said that you could have, 700 people in your thing so that everybody could play like a single player on your team. That's essentially what EASHL is. That's just like a subset of that, and then you have the multiplayer and all the matchmaking and stuff in there. But I mean, if that's not there, you can assume that GM Connected is going to come up short with having all those players, which I don't think that's actually a bad thing. If GM Connected went back to the normal one person controls one team, I think that would be a better idea. But yeah, if there's no EASHL, I was actually looking more forward to that this year than our GM Connected league that we were going to do.
What?
I'm sorry to tell you that.
How dare you?
A little bit the truth.
How dare you?
I have some friends that were like, "Hey, we're going to get it. We're going to get it on PS4," and I was like, "Let's do it," because I love Pro Clubs so much in FIFA. I want to have a team to play with in hockey, and I thought I was going to get it this year. Maybe still will, but so we'll have to see.
All right, let's also assume for a minute that GM Connected is not in it. There's two different ways that this could go. It is possible that instead of having EA Sports Hockey League and GM Connected, they could have something different, right? Like, remember when Madden came out with Connected Careers, which was the precursor to Connected Franchise Mode? They killed Superstar Mode. They killed Online Franchise. They put this all together into something. Yes, there may not be EA Sports Hockey League. There may not be GM Connected. They've been working on this game, at least part of the team has been working on this game for 2 years. There could be something completely different that could potentially be some sort of combination of the two. Brian Weedeye, is something like that possible? And because that announcement would be so big and because they have to stay on plan, could that be something that could actually be brewing?
Historically, if you look at when announcements are made, when EA has made announcements, those type of really significant ones come early. They don't come 3 weeks before release. So it's possible. I wouldn't say it's likely at all. And based on, I forgot to mention when I was first rolling off things, I had received several emails and direct messages from people who said they had intimate knowledge of the situation and that there was just no EA Sports Hockey League, no GM Connected, and there's nothing in their place. I can't verify those, that's just another little, something else to toss onto the pile of stuff. But I don't think with 3 weeks left there would be anything huge to announce, or at least based on their track record, that's not when they would be doing it. But if there is bad news next week, if they confirm no EA Sports Hockey League, if they confirm no GM Connected, they would try to bury that in the news on the other modes. Obviously, I think that would be the plan if that news is unfavorable to them, is that, hey, we're going to put out information on the other modes and hope some people talk about that instead.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's what NBA 2K15 is kind of doing, where they had all the new stuff come out for their new, I don't even know what it's called.
My League?
Yeah, for My League. It's like all this cool new stuff, offline only.
Mm-hmm.
So they could be doing something where they're going to have this whole new career mode that's going to be offline, and then maybe next year it becomes online. I mean, that could be something, but...
Well, NBA 2K15 also has said that there will be additional online league functionality, and NBA 2K15 is still 2 months away, and I think they're just introducing it, and again, they're going to be introducing modes along the way as well. So getting back to NHL 15, the other thing, that I'm, if you can't tell, by the way, I'm trying to be positive about this. I am really trying to be positive about this because nobody wants an online league more than me. Now, again, if there's no GM Connected, but perhaps there is at least online leagues, right? Like, because GM Connected is a lot more than an online franchise. Like, GM Connected is ridiculously deep. And my assumption, by the way, actually not assumption, my hypothesis is that a very high percentage of the people who played GM Connected used about 3% of its overall function, which is basically, TJ, what we did. We got a bunch of our friends and we played a season. And then after the season was over, we went back and we restarted another season because the whole off season was so complex. You have unrestricted free agents, you've got drafts, you've got all this stuff, which unless you are the most hardcore dedicated hockey fan, this stuff is incomprehensible. And I'm a big hockey fan, and it was crazy to me. Our friend Scott Binns he did all of this research and told us, okay, here's what we got to do step by step by step. Like, it was supremely complicated. If there are, again, we're not talking EASHL right now, if there is not GM Connected as we know it, but there are online leagues where you can have a very sort of stripped down version of it, would that be an acceptable situation to you, TJ? Because for me, at least if they got that, I'm cool.
Yeah, because I would definitely be down for that. I would actually prefer that to GM Connected, just because it was so convoluted, and I don't think there was a way to like set anything to auto. So I had a year where my whole off season, my team did nothing, and I came back and had like 12 people on my roster. It was pretty ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, if you take out all that stuff where it's like you can have 700 people and 28 people on each team for a roster, I mean, I would junk all that stuff from the jump and start building something else and make it all simpler. Maybe you bring in some skill games and stuff like Madden's bringing in. That would actually be preferable to the GM Connected stuff they have in there for me. But if they don't have either, I would be hard pressed to even think about buying this game.
And you guys have heard me talk about this for how long we've been doing this show, about over 2 years now. I want desperately just to be able to do like best of 7 series or online playoffs or online tournaments where the stats are tracked and you have MVPs. What if instead of EASHL or instead of GM Connected, they've got the ability to create these on-the-fly tournaments or these other sort of cool experiments with your friends that actually might be a whole lot of fun that people haven't even thought of. Brian Weeda, could something like that be happening here as well?
I don't think so. I mean, like, a lot of what ifs, Rich. You've got a lot of what ifs tonight, and we've gone over how FIFA and NBA Live now this idea that maybe they don't want to build out these online league type things anymore.
Right.
So would EA go from scratch and build something new? In that category of feature, I don't know. I don't if anybody would, it would be EA. But is NHL the type of title they would invest that in? I'm less certain about that.
Right, and now we're getting into the territory. I'm actually putting an article together to the newly launched Dodd Scientific's website. The piece will be going out next week. But so now I'm moving from positive Rich to the sky is falling. Rich.
Come on over, Rich.
Which is, it's not really an NHL thing, but it's a sports thing. Like, we've been sort of seeing it, but now let's assume, let's assume that GM Connected and EASHL are not in NHL 15, and what is in our offline franchise and Hockey Ultimate Team, and basically online play now, right? I can't imagine they would have they have to have at least some online functionality because Hockey Ultimate Team is in there. Let's assume they've got those basic features. That would be the first clear, like almost blatant example of the direction that sports games going that we don't want them to, but it's hard to see them not going, which is Ultimate Team killing online franchises. Like, because what do we know about NHL 15? Hockey Ultimate Team is there. And it is a big part of how it's being marketed and a big part of how it's being sold. And if
Rich, Rich, I was going to say, EA goes out of their way to state, I think it was very recent, that they put out a blog about Hockey Ultimate Team or some sort of mention of it where first sentence, NHL's most played mode. They are very proud of that, and that's why they continue to push it and push resources that direction, just like they are in the other games.
Well, and let's face it, it's hard to fault EA for putting resources things that make it a whole lot more money. I mean, I am very pro-business. Like, I believe that individuals and companies have the right to make money. I do not believe that they have the right to make money by abusing, their customers, right? I want to be very clear. But I believe in capitalism. I believe that making money, if you do it, by means that are not abusive, is a good thing, right? However, I pay $60 and I play online leagues, right? I want to be able to play an online franchise in Madden and in MLB The Show and in NBA 2K and in NHL. So sort of continuing where I was, like, let's assume that NHL 15, again, we don't know this, okay? We do not know this, but let's assume for a moment, or let's project that NHL 15 is the first next generation game that launches with an Ultimate Team and that eliminates a online franchise and EASHL. NBA 2K14 launched last year with a new My Team, which is their version of Ultimate Team, and a very, very, very stripped down version of an online franchise, which was barely functional. These are two very clear examples of the the revenue, the additional revenue generating modes trumping, if not eliminating, non-additional revenue generating modes. There's two directions that this could go now, right? Assuming this is the trend. And again, it's hard to argue against the trend because it's hard to say that, it's hard to find fault with allocating additional resources. Not that it's hard to find fault with killing them all. But it seems to me that if that is the direction we're going, there's two options. Number one is online franchises, and the huge, investment that the teams make into it and that we get to make into it will stay exactly where they are and eventually go away, or that we're going to have to pay for that. And TJ Lowerman, would you pay more than just the $60 price of admission and the $50 or $60 a year you're paying for PlayStation Plus and or Xbox Live Gold? Would you pay even more for the ability to pay online leagues, whereas if you didn't pay, you don't even have that option.
What? Yes, I think, or no? Rich completely blown my mind.
I think I think you would hope that they would be making all that money on Ultimate Team and then they'd invest it back into the product in other areas.
You would hope.
Otherwise, why don't they just, like I've been saying for a couple of years, branch Ultimate Team off into its own free-to-play game? They've done it on PC already with FIFA World. I mean, I don't think it's that far away. I only started to change my opinion recently because of EA Access and the idea of them pushing it behind a subscription. But if these are just going to become Ultimate Team games because that's the only mode that makes money, they're going to push away all the other core players. I mean,
agree.
the idea should be to have Ultimate Team, have that be as successful as possible, absolutely. But then to cultivate, a greater consumer base who's going to want to play all aspects of your product instead of just the one. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with Ultimate Team players, and then the people who helped get you to where you are today, the franchise mode players, for example, the career mode players, they're going to disappear, and then eventually, those Ultimate Team people are going to get bored with it.
Yeah,
Well,
and I think sorry, Rich.
No, go ahead, DJ. Yeah.
I think specifically with like NBA Live and NHL, since those are the two low games on the totem pole, focusing on the Ultimate Team in those gives them a clear shot at making money. NBA Live had a lot of development money wasted from the last 3 years, and put Ultimate Team in, try to get some return on investment there. If you don't put Ultimate Team in and you just have leagues, you're not going to get any investment, any ROI on that. But if NHL comes out with just Ultimate Team, they're obviously showing that that game might be not as financially viable as we hope it is, and that's why they need to have Ultimate Team in there to keep the game even alive. Because I think that's the main thing that's happening with NBA Live right now. If they can make enough money on Ultimate Team, they'll keep the game going. But if they can't, they'll probably just kill it. And I was actually worried that at some point NHL will go away unless Ultimate Team is going to be able to save that franchise.
You know what makes things even more surprising about potentially losing EA Sports Hockey League? They made money on EA Sports Hockey League. They sell the boosts, the skill boosts, the equipment boosts for players in there. It's certainly not as lucrative, I'm sure, as Ultimate Team, but that was actually a revenue-generating mode for them. It's easy to overlook that because I'm sure it's a costly mode for them, maybe compared to what it was making. I don't think any loss of EA Sports Hockey League was a money decision. You see how important it is to people. I don't think they would ever make just a decision just to get rid of it. But yeah, I mean we're talking about money here. That's actually was making them some money, or at least in theory could have been making them some money.
The worst case scenario here, in my opinion, is if NHL 15 launches and it has no ability to do online leagues, and there's no patch to put something like that in. Because then you cannot help but be cynical and say, okay, Ultimate Team has really, really begun to be a negative influence on sports games. And again, I want to make sure that I don't sound like I'm piling on, right? Like, if you look at the metrics, how many people play online GM Connected, how many people play online CFM, the numbers are dwarfed by how many people play offline franchise and offline, GM modes. Like, the crazy people like you and me, TJ and Brian, and our good friends, Pete Dodd and Mike Phillips and Adam and all the guys, and Gus Ramsey, all of us who play in these online leagues, I have a feeling we are in the vast minority, and it's got to be hard to continue to pour money and resources into modes that are barely touched compared to modes that are used by a lot of people and generate additional revenue. Again, I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying it's good, but it's also hard, when you've got a profit and loss statement that is, you're responsible for, and you're paying many millions of dollars for these licenses, and you're paying tons of extra money to make the leap from the current gen to the next gen, which takes a ridiculous amount of time and art assets. Like, these are very difficult decisions to make. I don't think that even if the worst case scenario happens, I don't think it's somebody running NHL or somebody running EA saying, aha, we showed you, we killed it. I just think these are sometimes very difficult economic decisions. But so TJ, let me ask you this question. What if there's a patch and somehow GM Connected and EASHL can be, if they're not shipped in day one, can be brought to life? Is that an acceptable solution for you?
Well, obviously I'll let one of you suckers buy the game first, and then we can do the PS4 share play thing.
Yes.
Come in and see if it's worth it. But what you were saying, Rich, even if they don't update the franchise modes and stuff, people might want to say thank you to the Ultimate Team stuff for actually keeping those games around. So even if the franchise isn't updated, there's still something to play. Like, I really feel that if there was an Ultimate Team, at least one game may have already been dead.
Brian, do you think TJ's right about that?
Well, they were obviously scrambling for additional revenue sources for years and years, whether it was the online pass or the more traditional downloadable content. They were obviously scrambling for that because all you ever heard was, "Oh, our development costs are going up with this generation." They said that last generation too, and now they say it again. And the sales of sports games, and you can really. You can find several different arguments for why sales of sports games as a whole have gone down over the years. Madden continues to go down. Really, NBA 2K is the only one that rose significantly in the last generation. FIFA did at the beginning of it too, to where it's at today. But there's kind of a peak that they hit, and then their development costs continue to go up. They might start losing people, and then they start looking for those additional revenue sources. And you saw it in mobile. That's kind of where the whole idea of milking people, I guess, that's where it kind of originated almost, and then they transferred it to the consoles and to limited success here and great success with Ultimate Team. I think without the Ultimate Teams, we'd have a very different landscape right now. I don't know how many more games we may have lost, because I still think obviously there'd be a market for an NFL game, there'd be a market for a basketball game. I'm sure we wouldn't have two basketball games. That's almost a certainty, because both basketball games now are going for the Ultimate Team models as well. So I think it's definitely kept them afloat at the very least. And if you look at like EA's financials, that's one of their, that's their revenue driver now in the sports games.
And with FIFA, we know we're not getting online leagues. Like, it's never happening. We just know, right? I mean, I asked Santiago Yaramillo at the event, and he's like, we understand, we would love to do it, but it's a massive amount of time. And let's face it, FIFA is already a huge game. Ultimate Team is huge. Pro Clubs is huge. They've got online seasons. Like, they've got a lot of modes. I think we're lucky, frankly, that Madden's CFM, the Connected Careers, which became Connected Franchise Mode, kind of got created when it did, because Ultimate Team wasn't the behemoth that it is now. Mm-hmm. And that was also, at a time where they knew the next gen was coming, but they were still a couple of years away. So, like, I think, we kind of got lucky with the timing of that. I think we really got lucky. When I say we, I mean like literally me, you, and Brian. Like, we got really lucky with MLB Online franchise, because we're having a blast playing that. That they put that in there. NBA Live has basically said not happening. We don't know whether NBA 2K is going to turn their very, very weakly released online leagues into something with some substance to it or not. We don't know. We don't know whether NHL is going to have something. We do know Pro Evolution is going to have it, but interestingly, Pro Evolution's online league has the ability to have microtransactions, which I find interesting. And again, it sort of leads me to the question of, if you want to have the online league experience, maybe it's going to have to be, if you want to play, you got to pay even more. But anyway, we will know more over the next week or so. And the NHL community is a passionate one for the real NHL. It's a passionate one for the NHL video game. The EASHL community is really passionate. While I understand the difficulties of getting that mode in the game, that's not true. I don't understand, but I can comprehend the difficulties of getting that mode in the game. I think it would be a real mistake for EA to not have EASHL in the game, if not on day one, somehow patched in as downloadable content. I think it would be a real mistake to not have GM Connected or some sort of online league in the game. We don't want to assume that they're not there. We want to wait. We want to give them, the benefit of the doubt. But boy, oh boy, fellas, if those two modes are not in and there aren't some sort of substitute that take their place, it's going to be a really difficult PR situation. And this is a game that for years has been recognized as being excellent, and the gameplay that we've seen and played so far in NHL looks terrific. It's going to be a really difficult situation for them to be in. Brian Wiedein?
Yeah, I mean, we went back to, if we go back to the summer, I was talking about NHL as maybe my most anticipated game, maybe the one that had the potential to be the best game, best sports game this year because of the extra development time they got by not releasing it in last winter, fall, whatever November, mid-November is. So it's kind of crushing because it's one thing to lose the modes, but I think people had higher expectations for this title because of that, and losing modes, carryover modes. It's not a question of why didn't they do more with NHL 15? Why didn't they add modes or add features? It'd be just losing two, and GM Connected is the lesser of the two, as we talked about, but two modes that people are heavily invested in. And it's not just about themselves, it's about community. And that's why you saw it with the crew mode for NBA 2K also, is that those people are vocal. I
just got a tweet from Sev09 who's like, here's one EASHL league alone with 3,500 players. I mean, to some people 3,500 players is a massive amount. To others it's not. But that is your core constituency. Those are the people that you really want to make sure are delighted with your game. So again, we don't want to make assumptions, right? This is basically a cry for help to NHL, a franchise I have long adored, and I've gotten to know Sean Ramjak Singh, who is one of the lead producers. He's a good guy. He loves the game. He loves the community. He's been on the show. So this is a cry for help. Please, one way or the other, let's see if we can't make that happen. And again, I guarantee you that Sean and the team want these things to exist, right? There's just it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. All right, well, we wanted to go 30 minutes. We went more than 60. This is just one of those things. I want to thank everybody who sent in questions. We're sorry we couldn't get to them. I want to thank everybody who watched live. I want to thank everybody who's listening to this on the Press Row podcast. This will be part of the audio show that comes out tomorrow. We really appreciate the feedback, the passion, the support. You guys are awesome. I just want to say real quick, thank you to everybody. I also want to mention, again, I talked about next week, I'm going to be putting a piece together for Dodd Scientifics, the brand new website that our good friend Pete Dodd launched yesterday. Congratulations to him. We're looking to have some contributions from all of our friends in the sports game world there as well moving forward. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, hey, TJ, Brian, thank you guys for participating as always. You guys are awesome. Thank you to everybody who watched and who sent in questions. And we'll talk to you again real soon.